Today's topic is recent and upcoming features. So we thought we'd kick off this return with going over some of the features that have been released and then also going over some that are upcoming. So let's dive over to Pipeline. Like I mentioned, we're going to first go over a few of the features that were released over the summer. So you've probably seen the notification about them, but I wanted to show them to you firsthand. The first is right here on our tasks page. You've now got the ability to mark your tasks completed faster. We've heard from you for a very long time where you wanted to be able to check these tasks off directly from the tasks page instead of having to go to the transaction, because there are a nice number of them that don't necessarily warrant seeing them in the context of the entire transaction and you're aware that they're completed. So the feature is to allow you right here in this column to be able to check off the tasks directly. Okay, so you can check them off. If for some reason you check it in error, you can uncheck it. It'll still remain there until you do so. Once you refresh this page, since these are checked off, go ahead and refresh it. They'll no longer appear since they're no longer incomplete. Okay. And like I mentioned, there may be cases where you don't need to see the tasks in context of the rest of the transaction. One of those scenarios might be related to when the agents have already completed tasks, or maybe they're ones that you don't necessarily need to fully check. So the agents have checked them off if you use that process where agent check their tasks. And then you can come here and look at all those agent check tasks by clicking this option here. See those tasks. If they are ones that you do indeed need to verify and check, particularly in the context of the transaction, you can still click that task to get to the transaction, right, and see that task there. Or if you're just looking at it here, and again, these are ones that agents have checked off and you don't need to verify, you can just go down the list and check them that way. This checking behaves the same as it does on transactions. So if I, for example, were to uncheck that, you don't lose your agent check if you were to uncheck an item here or on the transaction. Alrighty, so that is the first feature that has been added. The next one relates to this page as well, and that is the ability to filter tasks based on agents. So I go over here to the filter option, and let's say I wanted to search for all tasks for, say, Christian, right? And then filter. And that could be if I'm working on all the tasks that particular agent needs to fulfill, I can filter it down that way. Okay, and obviously I can do different agents, etc. Just be sure when you're searching to select the person that you're trying to actually filter on once you've typed a few characters. Okay, so easy peasy there. Another feature that we've had a lot of requests for. The third thing I wanted to show you is the ability to view your tasks in the order that they're due. So by default, the tasks are arranged in whatever order the admin or you have added it to the checklist template, right? But if an agent or an admin, anyone who's got the ability to see these tasks wants to see them based on the due date, they can actually click this option here to sort it by date. Okay, then they're seeing it in date order. And that can be a lot more useful to going down the list and seeing which is the highest priority based on that due date. Okay. Obviously, those without due dates will be sorted to the bottom there. Okay, and I can unsort it. Whatever you select here will be remembered on every transaction until or if I change and unselect that, then it'll remember that setting going forward. Okay, so it's sticky basically. It remembers what your setting is and does that going forward. And we've had some other small features, etc., that we've released, but those were the biggies that we released over the summer, in addition to the one that was just before that release, which I think was right at the very beginning of the summer. But that's a good segue into what's coming, because this sort by date option here, this checkbox, once we make the next release, is going to look slightly different. So if I head over to what's coming, the what's coming window here, I can see that my sort by date is actually now under a little gear icon, right? So I can sort by date by checking that. Okay, it's got another little spoiler there, but I'll talk about in a second. But so again, just FYI, the sort by date in the future will be under this little gear icon. Okay, and does the same function. It's just positioned a little bit differently. Alrighty, so just a heads up that tiny little change is coming so that you're aware of it and know where to go look for that. But that leads into the actual features that they relate to. Okay, so let me start first. I'm going to jump or ignore the fact that there's that little additional option there just for a moment. I'm going to come back to it after I explain the basis of that feature. The main feature that relates to that little drop-down item there relates to @mention being added as a potential visibility type, right? Right now, let me head over to a checklist. Right now, when you set visibility, you've got the ability to set visibility to be anyone, admins, listing or selling agents, or listing and selling agents. And those are all of your options. Actually, let me head back over here. And you can also do it on the transaction itself. Definitely prefer that you do it on the checklist template, but you can do it on the transaction once it's there if the visibility happens to change. But again, ideally you want to do it at the checklist template level. Okay, so the new addition that you probably saw there a moment ago is that we're adding @mention as a new visibility. So the way, you're probably already aware of how @mention works, which is that if I @mention something, let me @mention myself just so you can see how it works. If I @mention myself, this item, when it appears on a transaction, on the tasks list, or in a reminder, a daily reminder email for the person that's @mentioned here, that item will be green. And to just go see it in action, let me head over here to the tasks page and look at my @mentioned tasks, right? And I can see that those are green. And to see it in the context of the transaction, if I come over here, anything where I'm @mentioned, either by my name, and there are several ways to @mention someone by their name, or by my role, those tasks will be highlighted for me. So that's currently how it works. @mentioning someone on a task will highlight it for them on the task list, on the transaction, like here, and on their daily reminder email, okay? And that's been useful for flagging those tasks for those people so that they stand out. This new @mention visibility feature sets it so that if I say that a task should be visible to the @mentioned person, it will only be visible to that person. So if I were, let's head back to that task page so I can see it in context. So if I were on the tasks page and this task were set to be, let me find one right here. This task were set to be visible to @mention only, and it's mentioning CTest4, right? I wouldn't see this task at all. I'm not mentioned, and the task is set to be visible only to those who are @mentioned, so I wouldn't see it, right? I would only see those where I'm @mentioned, okay? Now, if that same task, going back to this particular example just to illustrate, if that same task were not set to be visible to @mention, let's say it were visible to anyone, I would still see it. So you can have a mix of both those that are visible to @mention and those that are not. But in practice, typically those offices who want to set it to be visible based on @mention may have all or none, right? You've got the flexibility. You can have all or none. You set all of your tasks to be visible based on @mention so that everything works that way. Or you can have a mix where some are visible to @mention and some are visible based on that old method of visibility to the agent, to the admins, to anyone, etc. Okay, so completely up to you. But overall, what it gives you is that ability for specific tasks to assign them to the specific people that you're @mentioning, either to the individuals or to the actual role. Okay. So what that means also is that, head back over to this checklist, you can even @mention multiple people, right? Maybe I'm saying visible to Monta, Hollis, and Carol, right? I can certainly do that. Okay. And then that way, if Monta, Hollis, or Carol is seeing this task in one of those three places, on the task list, the transaction, or the email, that task will show up. Anyone else who's looking will not see that task, okay? The one exception is master admins. Master admins can see all tasks, all right? So this applies to location admins or any other types of admins, primary location admin, etc. But master admins will see all tasks regardless of the visibility. Okay, so hopefully that will help quite a few people. Alrighty, that's it for our recently released features and those that are upcoming.